What could possibly compel Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, to shatter his golden rule and air his personal life in front of a live audience? Imagine the dazzling lights of Las Vegas, the electrifying energy of the crowd, and Elvis himself, a man known for his poise and mystique, suddenly veering into uncharted territory. That night, in a room filled with fans, friends, and two very unexpected guests, Elvis said something so shocking it left everyone stunned. Stay tuned, because what happened next changed everything. In the glittering nightlife of 1970s Las Vegas, Elvis Presley reigned supreme. The king of rock and roll was a towering figure, captivating audiences with his magnetic stage presence and iconic voice. But beneath the dazzling lights of the showroom, a night was unfolding that would shock not just the audience, but also those closest to Elvis. Among the sea of eager fans were two women who, though worlds apart in their roles in Elvis's life, found themselves uncomfortably close. Priscilla Presley, his ex-wife, and Sheila Ryan, his current girlfriend. Their mere presence together in the same venue was enough to set tongues wagging, but what happened next was something no one could have predicted. Elvis, always the consummate showman, had an unspoken rule. His private life stayed off the stage. For years, he had maintained a delicate balance between his personal struggles and his public image, choosing instead to pour his emotions into his music. But on this particular night, that carefully constructed boundary began to crack. As the audience settled into their seats, unaware of the drama brewing, Elvis orchestrated a seating arrangement that was as deliberate as it was surprising, placing Priscilla and Sheila side by side in the same booth. The tension in the air was palpable, even before the show began. What could Elvis have been thinking? Was this an attempt to show the world that he had everything under control? Or was it something deeper, something more telling about his state of mind? As the room buzzed with anticipation for his performance, all eyes were already drawn to the booth where his past and present seemed to collide. It was an unusual setup that left many wondering if the king's poised demeanor was starting to show cracks. And as Elvis took to the stage, the true nature of the night began to reveal itself, piece by unexpected piece. As the spotlight illuminated Elvis Presley, the king seemed at first to be in his element. With every note and gesture, he held the audience captive, transporting them into the world of his music. But then, almost imperceptibly at first, the tone began to shift. Between songs, Elvis started speaking, not about the music or the fans, but about something far more personal. His voice, rich and commanding, carried an undercurrent of vulnerability as he began to comment on Sheila Ryan, his girlfriend seated in the audience. He spoke of the jewelry he had given her, a subtle acknowledgement of their relationship. The crowd murmured, intrigued by the rare glimpse into Elvis's private life. But what started as a charming anecdote took an unexpected turn. Elvis's candid commentary drifted further into uncharted territory. He acknowledged the presence of his ex-wife Priscilla and offered reassurances to the audience about their amicable separation. For a moment, it seemed like he was trying to portray himself as a man at peace with his past. Then, the mood in the room thickened. Elvis made an unexpected reference to Priscilla's current boyfriend, Mike Stone, and the words that followed sent shockwaves through the audience. With a sharp tone and a biting edge, Elvis insulted Stone in a way that stunned everyone. It was a rare moment where the poised king allowed his emotions to spill over, revealing a side of him the public had rarely, if ever, seen. The audience was visibly taken aback, unsure of how to react. Some laughed nervously, while others exchanged bewildered glances. Meanwhile, all eyes darted toward the booth where Priscilla and Sheila sat. According to bodyguard Red West, the women handled the moment with grace, though the embarrassment was clear. Poor Priscilla and Sheila seemed very embarrassed, but they both handled it with lots of class, West later recounted. The tension in the room was almost tangible, as if every person present understood they were witnessing something deeply personal and profoundly unusual. Elvis had crossed a line, and the question on everyone's mind was, why? For Priscilla Presley, the night was nothing short of surreal. Sitting in the audience, her emotions swung between disbelief and discomfort as Elvis, the man who had once been so guarded about his personal life, laid it bare for all to see. His words cut through the room like a knife, and with each sentence, Priscilla felt the weight of the audience's eyes upon her. Reflecting on the event later, she admitted the sheer embarrassment of having her private life thrust into the spotlight. "I was in shock," she would later say. Elvis had always been a man who used music, not words, to convey his feelings. To see him unravel on stage was jarring, a side of him she had never encountered in public before. This behavior, so uncharacteristic of the Elvis she had known, left Priscilla deeply unsettled. For years, he had been a master of self-control, keeping his vulnerabilities hidden behind the facade of the king of rock and roll. But that night, the carefully constructed persona seemed to falter, exposing cracks in the armor. Priscilla couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was amiss. This wasn't just about a public misstep, it was a signal that Elvis was struggling with something far more profound. His unfiltered comments and erratic behavior hinted at an emotional turbulence that was impossible to ignore. As the night wore on, Priscilla's concern for Elvis grew. She had always known him to carry the weight of his fame with pride, but the vulnerability he displayed hinted at an underlying fragility. Could this have been a cry for help, an unintentional glimpse into his mental and physical exhaustion? For Priscilla, the evening was more than just an awkward moment. It was a wake-up call. The man she once loved was changing, and it was impossible to ignore the signs that he might be heading down a dangerous path. The tension in the room that night was not just about what Elvis had said, it was about what it revealed about him. The shocking twist of that unforgettable night was not just what Elvis said, but what it revealed about him. For years, he had been a symbol of strength, a larger-than-life figure who seemed impervious to the pressures of fame. But this moment was different. His unguarded words, his willingness to breach the wall between his personal and public lives, were not merely a dramatic turn for the stage. They were a window into his inner turmoil. According to Priscilla, this behavior was a stark departure from the Elvis she had known. He would never, ever let on to the audience what his emotions were, she later reflected, adding that seeing him so exposed felt like watching a different person altogether. It wasn't just out of character, it was alarming. His bodyguards echoed this sentiment, pointing out how the king's demeanor had begun to shift in ways that concerned even those closest to him. "He wasn't the same," one remarked, noting how moments like this seemed to betray a growing weight on Elvis's shoulders, one that even his immense charisma couldn't fully disguise. To those who idolized him, Elvis was a legend. To those who knew him personally, he was a man grappling with something far deeper than anyone realized. That night in Las Vegas, as fans cheered and gasped in equal measure, it became clear that the king of rock and roll was fighting battles that no one had seen before. And though the audience may not have understood it in the moment, this incident marked a turning point, one that would forever color how they remembered him. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most surprising moments in Elvis Presley's life, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button for more incredible stories about the king of rock and roll. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Elvis's behavior that night? Was it a cry for help or something else entirely? Share your opinions in the comments below, and don't forget to share this video with fellow Elvis fans. Let's keep the conversation going.